Richard Crouse.
You have been around this for a long time now. Do you recall back when the first time your family saw you in something, or the first, that kind of moment that maybe he's having now? Is that something you can relate to in any way?
Yeah, I do. Probably the first time I did something my entire family came to was when I was in London doing Oklahoma at the National Theatre, and probably for me at that point, my dreams as a acting student were weirdly around the Royal Shakespeare Company, the National, the English. I held the English standard up to be the pinnacle. And when I was at the National Theatre, I was like, wow, that's my dream. I haven't really worked anything else out. It wasn't so much Hollywood. So when my whole family were there, that was very, very special for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. This movie,
Yeah.
I remember the Twilight Zone episode.
You do?
Yeah,
Wow.
Lee Marvin, Richard. Well, I'm a
Yeah.
huge Richard Matheson geek. Love if you've not read a lot of Richard Matheson.
No, I haven't.
He wrote I Am Legend, which
Yes.
is the short story. It's about 100 pages long.
Right.
That the Will Smith
Yes.
movie is based on. It's brilliant, and it comes in a little thin volume with some of his other short stories. I guarantee you read that, you will be hooked for the rest of your life.
Really?
And you will search down everything.
Wow.
Brilliant, and I'm not even a real sci-fi guy, but it just, for some reason, his writing is so beautiful. It will connect with you.
I loved the short story.
Yeah.
I thought it was fascinating, and it kind of gave me some inspiration that was not even on the page. Same for Sean,
Right.
and really the desperation of that character that was in the story. He's just at his wit's end. He'll do anything, because he hates losing. He's a competitive. It's put all your chips onto one number, and just roll the dice, go for it. He's that kind of guy, and he just keeps coming up short, And I love that short story too.
Well, you have to like Charlie, though. As an audience member, you have to like the character. Otherwise, why do you want to spend 2 hours?
Yeah.
Why do you care, right?
Right.
But in the beginning, he does some despicable things.
Yes.
And, I walked away going, okay, well, he's doing these despicable things out of desperation, for one thing. I don't think he's an evil guy. I think he's just pushed in a corner and he doesn't know how to react. But you play with a bit of a swagger at first, like when he goes into the court for the first time. I thought, he's late.
Yeah.
He doesn't really care. Then he sees the money thing and he makes that happen with the cell phone. And I thought, I don't know whether I'm going to like this guy, but you do. You end up liking him. And that, I guess, is the trick as an actor for you, right?
That was, Sean and I spent a long time talking about that. How far do we take this? It's a DreamWorks movie. It's been distributed around the world by Disney, and the guy sells his son in the first 10 minutes. It's not on paper what you'd expect. And it we went for it.
Yeah.
And I, to be honest, fully expected to be reshooting some of that earlier stuff. Yeah, I thought the studio were very supportive. Stephen was obviously very hands-on. He's watching every take, all the dailies, the script, and they believed in it. And then I just thought when they watched it in entirety, or when they tested it, people were going to say, "Who is this guy? I hate him." But in the end, they said, "No, let's go for it." It was a stronger choice, but I think ultimately it makes it more impactful when you see him at the end kind of coming to life, boxing.
Right.
Like, you see that all those things he decided about himself and about life was about switching off because he'd been hurt too much. And I think all of us can relate to that. Sometimes it's easier. I mean, I've had my heart broken a few times, and it's always tempting to go, well, I'm never going to do that again.
Right.
Just what's the point of entering in, being vulnerable, and then having your heart broken? So if that is how life is, your view of life, then I understand it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I mean, I think in any career, I know I've certainly had, career disappointments, things. You might have had a movie that you loved that maybe didn't perform, whatever,
Totally.
that kind of thing. And you have to sit back, and there's got to be a moment of self-reflection when you go, why did I love it so much and nobody else does, or it didn't get the reaction I thought it would get? And you either choose to move forward, or you become that guy that we meet at the beginning of the movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
For me, I had, it was a bit of an accident, but I did a show called The Boy from Oz, and Peter Allen. Now, I'd been offered it 4 years before and had turned it down because I'd made this choice, this strategy to get into film, right? which is what I was always an actor and had somehow got into musicals. Anyway, when I saw the show, I knew it was going to be great, by the way. When I saw the show, it was as I knew, and I felt sick in the stomach because I was like, you didn't follow your gut instinct. You know, you thought you were doing the right thing, and it was really a difficult night for me, and it stayed with me. When they asked me, I think it was 3 or 4 years later, I said yes. I hadn't even told my agent about it. I said, yes, I'm in. And then we opened. We got really bad reviews. I mean, we were killed. We got killed. And there was a real moment of like, will we make it or will we not? Will we survive the winter? We then picked up and actually became a massive hit. And the people who reviewed it badly a year later were reviewing it as this great smash hit. It was kind of interesting. But 2 things I learned from that. Even after the bad reviews, even after I still knew in my gut that it worked. I was on stage. I kind of didn't believe him. I was like, I think you got it wrong. It's your opinion, fine, but I think you got it wrong. And secondly, if we failed, I was okay with it.
Right.
I have done other things, which obviously I don't want to tell you specifically, where I'd been not so sure. Maybe I thought it was strategically the right thing, and when it came out, it wasn't what I wanted or what I thought it might have been.
Right.
It's really hard to live with. It's hard to face yourself in the mirror because you think you did it all for the wrong reasons. So that was the turning point for me.
And from that point on, I mean, I think that we've seen different sides of you, you know, singing, dancing on TV. You were in Toronto for a couple of months doing all that. And you seem to have this kind of unique career for me now where you can make, you know, the Wolverine movies and then in the very next breath do something, you know, all singing, all dancing. I don't know that there's any other career out there like it.
It started more as a way to stave off unemployment. I'll be honest, when I came out of drama school, I was like, I'm going to do anything I can, man, just to keep working. And look, you're in Australia, maybe similar here, but probably not because of the proximity to America. But in Australia, they probably make, at best, 15 movies a year.
Right.
You cannot... If you do 2 a year, you're like the biggest working actor in Australia.
Right. And the budgets are probably small.
Of course, there's no living to be made, really. You cannot say, I'm going to be a film actor. I'm not doing TV. I'm not going to do theatre or this or that. You've got to do everything.
Right.
And that's... So I had a facility to do a number of different things. So I just kept working at all of them as a way to kind of spread the chances of unemployment, you know. So... it sort of fell into a strength. It became, I didn't really mean it to be that, except that I found a drama school. I was happy and loved that eclecticism and the ability, like in drama school you do Shakespeare to movement to circus skills to singing all in one morning.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people hated it, and I reveled in it. I loved it. So that's sort of, it's weird how it's evolved, you know.
This movie is a very physical part for you. We see you with, you know, the boxing and that, and you're someone I think who takes that very seriously.
Of course,
yeah. And it's a real part of your life. Is that kind of discipline that you need to maintain that kind of physique and to maintain that something? Is that sort of discipline an offshoot of, you know, the discipline you learned in acting school, or has it always been that way for you? Have you always been someone who's just jumped in and said, you know what, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to be the guy that does, you know, I'm going to be
I've always been the jump in first guy.
Yeah.
There's a number of reasons why. My dad taught me an amazing work ethic. He never took one day off in his life. Now, he had 5 kids he was bringing up on his own. So, you know, if anyone deserved a day off, it was my old man. He never did. He just had that, just keep going, working, work hard. I mean, old school. Like, if you got a headache, there was no, like, take a headache tablet. It's like, well, why have you got a headache? Go to bed early. You know, it's whatever. So I learned that from him. Also, I think as a kid, being the youngest, you're terrified of missing out on things. Like, your whole life feels like, I'm not allowed to do that, while my brothers are doing for another 2 years, which is an eternity. So I always wanted to do stuff and not be left out. And I was quite a fearful kid, which I hated. I was scared of the dark. I was scared of heights. There was a period of time, my mum had left. I was always the first one home. I would not even go into the house until someone else came home. So I would sit out on the stoop, right? You know, and I hated it. So I've always had this fear. And if, like a drama school, you know, it's sort of, it's a weird thing to think back now, but it's a pressure kind of situation. People get kicked out of drama school. You're constantly being judged how you're doing. Are you progressing? Are you not?
And how you look, I guess, and all that stuff, right?
That, not so much. Not at drama school. Not at mine, anyway. But you were constantly being judged. So there were almost every day, all right, let's get up and do this monologue, sing this song, do it in front of everybody. I noticed I was always first. I never wanted to sit there waiting for, and I would see some people, they were like, don't pick me first, don't put my, I want to see 5, 6 other people. And I'm not saying that out of courage, it was more like, I hate this feeling being fucking, I'm getting up. I'm just going to get up and I'm going to do it, and so I remember one of the girls in class said to me, after about 1.5 years, I remember Jeanette, she said, you always get up first, like, why don't you let other people get up? I says, anyone can get up. I said, if you want to get up, you put your hand up. I got no problem. I says, but I'm not going to wait 5 seconds. I said, because I just want to do stuff. So, and I remember hanging back for a little while. I was like, all right. So I'd wait 5 seconds. I'd count to 5 in my head. All right, I'm up. That's it. It was too uncomfortable to sit stewing over that. So anyway, I don't think I've told anyone else that. It's interesting.
Well,
Good question.
It's fascinating. I mean, I wonder. I often wonder what drives people. I'm very driven. I was also raised by a very old school father who, my arm hurts when I do this. Well, don't do this anymore. He's that guy, and never took it as the same idea. Strong work ethic, and I think that really imparted to me. And as a result, I'm a driven adult.
Yes.
And I think I'm always interested to see where it comes from, though. And I think the fear thing is very interesting.
Yeah, no, I do too, and it's
amazing how motivating a factor that can be.
Not only that, when I started acting, I was the dunce of the class. I went to 2 drama schools. I did one for a year. I was way too perky. And hey, everyone else had beaten leather jackets, was smoking in every break, seemed to be way more tortured, they carried their demons on their face, and I seemed way too, I just didn't fit in, and every time I did something in class, I could see the teachers rolling their eyes. I wasn't sure what it was. But I was not cutting it, and it was a very lonely feeling, and kind of best thing that could have happened to me, because, have you seen the Brady Six?
Yeah.
All right. I watched that the other day, and it really gave me an insight. It's almost like I still feel like I'm 191st pick in the draft.
Yeah.
Probably from that beginning of drama school, that feeling of it, and the way it turned around was I finally stopped caring about what the teachers thought. So I've never forgotten that, but there's always that feeling of like, okay, I got to work harder than everyone else. It's not like I'm not born Philip Seymour Hoffman. I've got to just work harder.
Yeah.
So I'm prepared to do it.
Yeah. Well, it shows, and that just rocked me. But you know what?
Thank you so much.
It was a real pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Richard Crouse.